Welcome to BMPCC4k.tech, the leading tech blog dedicated to the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. It's been a while since I've done a video. I think probably close to a year. But let me tell you, a lot's been going on. It's good to be back. I'm going to be diving in to this pretty extensive test on Anamorphics. That's right, folks. You heard it. Anamorphic. We're dealing with old projector scopes that are being modified and fitted to fit on the front of a taking lens, which is a normal spherical lens. So anyways, today we're going to be looking at a few. These are all in true 2x. So that means the stretch factor is the true CinemaScope 2x. So keep in mind, these are projector scopes. And today's test, I only chose 3. I chose the Hypergonar 16 stop. So it's a 16 millimeter projector scope or projector lens. And it's a 2x. This is from the father of Anamorphics. This comes from France. This is an amazing, amazing lens. Also, I have the Sankor 16D, which is out of all the C and Fs, people will argue, but it is one of the highly sought after ones. And also the tiny and small Kowa 16S. So all 3 of these are going to battle out on the same taking lens. So I'm going to take turns switching, going through the different apertures. The taking lens I've chosen is the Zeiss Jena 50 millimeter 1.4. This is an amazing sharp lens. Maybe not so sharp wide open, but it is an amazing sharp lens. Also, I've chosen a passive adapter, so there is no focal reducer or speed booster attached. So I've attached, and keep in mind, the taking lens is a full frame lens. So it's being put on to the Blackmagic with the passive adapter. In front of it, I'll have the scope mounted on. All these tests are conducted in the studio. And I know you guys love the Marvel Universe, so I've chosen a great team to model for you guys, just to give you an idea of not only the difference between a 50 mil spherical lens, but what happens when you attach an anamorphic scope on, how much more coverage you get, and what are the unique characteristics of a anamorphic scope. So let's dive right into it. But you know, when it comes down to heftiness, I'm comparing the Hypergonar 16 and the Sankor. They're both on the hefty side, but you know, when you're shooting anamorphic, don't expect to have this tiny little lens. I don't care if you bought an Atlas, a Vazen, or any of the high-end ones, okay, ones that are costing you tens of thousands, if not, you know, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 lenses. They're not small. None of them are small. They're big because they're giving off big results. Now, I'm sure there's probably a science and a method and a madness behind why anamorphic lenses tend to be on the big and hefty side. You know, you're talking several pounds. So don't fall into that trap thinking I got to have a small scope. So as you can see, I brought all the files in. They're all marked at different apertures. So here's the baseline wide open. This is the Zeiss Jena 1.4 wide open. It's a soft lens, very soft lens, wide open. But a couple turns at 2.8, sharp as a tack. This is an amazing, amazing sharp lens. But also look at the field of view. And at 4.0, it gets beautifully. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful lens. Color, contrast, look, feel. So now we're going to look at the sharpness. So the first scope up is the Hypergonar. And as you can see, true to form, not only do we have a larger field of view, we have oval bokeh, but the image is soft. But we knew the image was soft at the 1.4. 2.0 starts to get a little bit better, but it's still, you know, a soft image. 2.8, the center is definitely good. The left side where Thanos is a little bit soft. Hulk looks nice and sharp. And of course at 4.0, we have a very, very soft image, except on Thanos, on the very far edge of his shoulder. It's not that sharp. And at 5.6, it's pretty sharp all the way across the board. I didn't lighten up the image, it's just the way it is. So let's look at the flares on the Hypergonar. And as you can see, it produces warm flares. This is at 2.8. Multiple lines, great flare. A little bit of a green, but it's definitely warm. 4.0, closing it down. I think it gets a little finer, but still nice warm flares, a little bit of green. So now we're going to look at the Kowa 16S sharpness. Of course, wide open, not sharp at all. But you know, you look at the oval bokeh in the background. At 2.0, it's pretty sharp, but the edges definitely look soft. Hulk and Thanos look soft. 2.8, it shines like a diamond. This little 16S Kowa shines at 2.8. It blows away the Hypergonar. At 4.0, it's a spectacular image. Still have the oval bokeh, by the way, in the background. 5.6, the sharpness just increases. Now let's look at the flares of the 16S. It's a faint blue flares. Don't expect no J.J. Abrams type of flares. It's very faint, but they're still blue flares. At 4.0, it gets cleaned up a little bit, little less of the fogginess. But if you notice also, there's no blooming at, this is crop to a ratio of 2.76 to 1. So now we're going to look at the Sankor 16D. Brutally soft. Wide open. And at 2.0, still soft. In my opinion, an unusable image. But also, as a caveat, this was about almost 6 feet from the subjects here. So I know that the 16D has, I think it's 3 meters. So it may still have been a little too close. Not sure, but at 4.0, it gets usable, in my opinion. It's still a little soft, but it's usable. It's not the end of the world. 5.6, definitely a usable image. And let's look at the flares of the 16D. This is the J.J. Abrams. We're getting into that vicinity. Once again, as you stop it down, the lines become a little finer and more refined. Now we're going to do a side-by-side and see what they look like against the baseline. So here we have the Zeiss baseline against the Hypergonar. You could see it's softer than the baseline was. And also the Kowa 16S, still not as good as the original taking lens. Sankor 16D, nowhere near the ballpark of the original baseline. And at 4.0, the Hypergonar is getting there. I mean, it's a little softer, but it's not, a deal breaker in my opinion. The 16S is a beautiful image at 4.0. And the Sankor 16D is still soft image. So we're comparing literally side by side to the baseline. This is the center of the image. So now we'll look at the left. Of course, Thanos wasn't in the frame on the baseline, but you could see when you look at Iron Man, still a soft image. And the 16S is very close. A little softer, but no deal breaker in my opinion. 2.8, totally usable. The 16D, soft on the edge. And here we are at 4.0. I definitely think the Hypergonar is usable at 4.0. The edge, of course, will be softer. The 16S, home run, home run. That is, take this one and walk off, home run. 16D is suffering, and it may need to be aligned, and maybe I was, too close. I'm going to do another retest with some more scopes so you could see. This is the right side of the frame. I think the Hypergonar at 2.8 looks great. Tiny bit of softness, but that's because we're looking right compared to the baseline image, which is the spherical, amazing Carl Zeiss Jena 50 millimeter. Of course, the Sankor 16D, soft all the way across. And at 4.0, I think the Hypergonar's a slam dunk. I think it's totally usable. And that, keep in mind, this is the edge of the image. 16S, once again, comes through. Might be a little bit softer, I think, than the Hypergonar, but it's an amazing image on the edge of the frame. The Sankor, once again, soft. Also, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. That way you'll be notified whenever I put out a new video. And I'm going to be putting out some pretty soon here, really fast succession. Also, go head over to the website. You'll get a notification right away, and you'll be able to read past articles and check out what's going on. Before I wrap this video up and you go ahead and comment for me to toss that Sankor 16D in the trash or to just go ahead and use it as a paperweight, let me show you some video, real world footage that I shot with this setup. So I used the SLR Magic rangefinder as my single focus solution. I had the Sankor 16D. I had the Carl Zeiss Jena 50mm 1.4. The aperture was set at 5.6, which in my opinion is the strength of this particular combination. It's totally passable. It's a very pleasant image, very good footage. So this is the real world test. When I'm in the studio and I'm testing apples to apples and checking every aperture, I'm looking for the strengths and the weaknesses of each of the combinations to find what works best with what. Maybe this scope works best with this taking lens and at this aperture. That way you're not surprised when you're out there, in the real world shooting, that you'll know exactly beforehand what's your strength and your weaknesses, or what setup you should be taking. And maybe in the future I'll be releasing a video of the 101, Anamorphics 101. The steps, the process, the thoughts, and the things that I consider before I look into a potential scope or taking lens. So maybe stay tuned for that. That'll be coming up shortly as we all hunker down around the world to hopefully stop the spread of this tremendous virus that's spreading around the world and causing havoc. I pray for your thoughts, for your sanity, for your peace, and for your happiness and your health, most of all, which is priceless. That you and your loved ones must make it through to the other side here, and that we'll all be better humans for it, and we'll enjoy our lives once again. And as creatives during this time, that we don't get stuck in this negativity, but that we find ways to positively create and influence the world the way we know how. So my thoughts, my positive thoughts, my prayers, my regards to you and your family. So until next time, folks, take care and God bless.